Greetings and salutations, people, and welcome back to Fair Game. In episode 4 of the Infiltrator run, we will be conducting our flight to the enemy base once again. God damn, there's a lot of helicopter missions in this game. Mission 2 is very similar to Mission 1. It's actually almost identical to Mission 1 if you're talking about the actual flight involved. However, there is an important number of changes both in the helicopter and in the actual mission once you land. First of all, the objective is completely different. The objective of this mission is to find a Dr. Phineas Gump. God, that's a fucking fantastic name, isn't it? And rescue him. We also need to destroy the invisibility pill that he was forced to make for the Mad Leader. The second major difference is that once you get to the enemy base, you have a much shorter time limit. This is because of the fact that the mission itself is much shorter. Since instead of having to collect a whole bunch of chemicals, bring them to a neutralizer and use that on the bat, in this mission, all you have to do is find the pill, find Gump, rescue Gump, destroy the pill, and, of course, get the hell out of there. Enemy patrols are more aggressive in this mission, and there's more enemies in general. The building layout is also more complicated, and there's a hell of a lot more landmines. Additionally, while actually flying to the enemy base this time, there is a chance, however rare, that we will run into one of the so-called rogue pilots, or as I called them in the previous video, crazies. Basically, these are pilots who, they don't care what you identify as, they want to fight, they're going to start one. God help you if you get one of these guys, because you basically have to fight to the death. To the best of my knowledge, any pilot can be a crazy, though I have noticed that in my own copy of Infiltrator, Buster tends to be the one that is the most common one that is. Because the landing zone for the second mission is significantly farther away than the one for the first mission, I actually do have to use turbo mode an awful lot to get there on time. You want to have a decent supply of fuel because landing is actually one of the more fuel-consumptive things that you can do in the game. Turbo mode allows you to double your speed for a bit, but it also rapidly heats up your oil. Unfortunately, oil is also heated up by using whisper mode, so suffice to say, you actually have to use this thing sparingly. Use it for short bursts of speed and then slow it down in order to allow the oil to cool. Battery temperature is also a concern, but the battery only seems to heat up if you go over a certain speed. The Gizmo seems to reliably do about 390 without suffering any battery heat. If you go faster than that, it tends to heat up pretty quickly. However, you can slow back down and it will cool off just as quick. As is the case for the oil heat, the only reason to ever do this is to go faster. So feel free to temporarily boost your speed to 450 in order to maximize the speed you get from turbo, but then slow back down to a more manageable level once your heat starts to get too high. This is actually one of the main tactics to getting there really quickly if you're going to be doing this on Mission 3. So you can expect to see me do it, of course, when we actually get to Mission 3. It's actually kind of funny because if you're playing the game correctly, or just luck out, you're never actually going to use any of the main functions on the left side of the console. The missiles, the guns, the chaff, or the flares. And you normally have to use them a lot, and very effectively if you want to even hope to survive a dogfight in this game. But I fully expect us to see that on Mission 3. On average, you'll usually run into about 4 planes. Potentially less if you're able to stall for a particularly long period of time. One thing that does become a problem as you do use turbo more and more in the game is that it becomes much more easy to get slightly dislodged from the actual route that you're supposed to. Ergo, making you have to fine-tune it in order to figure out which way you're supposed to go, because the compass only points in the 8 cardinal directions. Something I noticed relatively recently is that the plane model that they have is relatively generic. I think the way they designed it was specifically done so that it looked like either a MiG-21 or, alternately, an F-16. They both look about the same from a certain angle, and if you're using low detail enough, then yeah, they look very similar. That's actually kind of clever, since it makes both sides have a similar silhouette from long range, and also means that they didn't have to code 2 different plane models. You know, I remember when I was really little, and I used to be playing this game often, one of the things I wound up buying for my friend John was this controller add-on called a docking bay. Basically, it was this weird-looking joystick thing that you shoved your NES gamepad into, and it basically turned it into a joystick. For the most part, it wasn't really all that good for playing most games with, but Infiltrator was really fun with it. Mostly because it was as close to a flight stick as I could get at the time. And honestly, that's kind of one of the more unique aspects of Infiltrator. This was a time period where most of the Sims that came out on the NES were much more arcadey, stuff like Afterburner and Top Gun. There wasn't anything like this before. There was a Commodore game that was like this, specifically Gunship, which, by the way, had a fantastic PlayStation re-release. But as far as helicopter flight sims went, this thing stood alone for quite some time. Kind of unique for a game that came out of nowhere, had a team of about 2 on it, and basically no budget. Not bad at all for a game that was basically a budget title back in 1989. We're about to land at our destination, so with that in mind, it's time to wrap this episode up. In the next episode, we will actually be at the enemy base and actually be at what I refer to as the fun part of the game.